today for a webcast on where to start with AP automation. We are a couple minutes past the hour. We're going to get started in just a moment. Before we do, just a word about us at JMT. We're founded in 1991. We're an independent technology consulting shop. We only work with nonprofits. We have clients in all 50 states, and our mission is to help support your mission. And so today I am, as we get started, I want to give you a couple of housekeeping notes. When going through today's broadcast, we will have on your panel, should be on the right side of your screen, is a question section. And if you have questions as we're going along, just enter them in there. We'll have those moderated. And at the end, we'll have a Q&A session so that we'll get a chance to answer all of your questions. So, once we're done with this, JMT will forward out the presentation and recording to you. And then, so you'll have a chance to share it with your colleagues or review it again. Today, and with that, I'm going to hand it off to Lance Conrad, Natalia Harris, and Natalia Harris and Carol Harris, who are going to be with us today from AvidXchange. Lance?
Hey, thanks, Rob. Really appreciate it. This is Lance Conrad. I am responsible for the strategic partnerships in our organization. I help companies streamline their accounts payables operations. And along with me is Natalia Harris. She is our solutions consultant. She's an expert in the product and will be here to help us answer any technical questions that you might have. And also, I've got Carol Harris here. She is our marketing manager that is leading the webinar on our side. So the agenda here is pretty basic and hopefully pretty fun. And I'll try to make it as fun as possible. We're going to go over the time and costs associated with the manual AP process, so you can get an idea of what this is costing your company and time spent now prior to automation. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what does AP automation mean? What are some of the things involved in it? And then the benefits of bundling the invoice and pay automation piece as you go from invoice to pay, and then a little look inside of our company, AvidXchange. So here we're going to start with the time and cost associated with the manual AP process. So as you take a look at the manual steps, there's really basically 5 steps that organizations face when processing invoices. And hopefully this all looks familiar to you. First, it's the intake side. The problem is a lot of these invoices are coming in various ways. They're coming in paper, they're coming in fax, they're coming in email, not very standard. So inputting this data into your accounting system, it tends to be error-prone and also tends to be very laborious. Capturing the data is very costly. Really, this manual process of taking the data from your paper or emails and putting it into your ERP is very time-consuming, especially if those that are out there are taking the emails and printing them from the PDF versions. That's a huge step. And then, of course, if you're working with purchase orders or vouchers, you've got to match these pieces of paper now to the POs or somehow go into your ERP to retire the line items from the PO. So there's a big matching manual process here. And I hope you're kind of getting where this is going, because we're going to automate all this for you. Here's a big drag on the whole process: approvals. If anyone out there has ever tried to get an invoice approved within their organization, it's pulling teeth. I don't need to tell you, you've got a stack of invoices. They've got to go to interdepartment heads. They've got to get their sign off on it. They've got to okay them before you can now bring them into your ERP and make them open payable. These people are extremely busy. They don't really have a lot of time to look at every one of these pieces of paper or in email form to approve. So they get pushed down on the priority list. This we can definitely help with. And then the reporting. If you're looking to get any type of reporting on your invoices, any kind of accruals, what kind of invoices are still outstanding that haven't been approved yet, and you've got to go to different sources to get and pull that information, what you really need is a single source. So all of this stuff, very costly. And what does it cost? Here, our this Ardent Partners, who's one of our research companies, has estimated that almost $12 it costs to process a single invoice. And if you're talking about 500 invoices a month, or in that range, you're looking at close to $6,000 just to process bills. Now on the next steps, here's really kind of how we think about and how others think about processing. So I went through the chunks of processing invoices, but here's the process. You bring in some mail, you open up the mail, you photocopy the emails, and then you have to now enter all of that one at a time into your ERP. Then there's that costly approval process where you're running around physically trying to get emails. And then once they are approved, you've got to get those up into your ERP. And then what do you do with all those papers? You got to file them in file drawers. Then comes the inquiries. Customers are calling, vendors are calling up. They want to know they haven't seen their invoice. They haven't been paid. Internal questions, reporting on invoices. When you have a duplicate, when you have a manual process like this, the cost of duplicate payments goes way up. And that is just a nightmare. Plus all of this time that it takes, you're missing valuable discounts. And here's what the time it takes. Again, our PayStream advisors, a different company that did this particular research for us, it's estimated it takes 23 days to average an invoice from receipt to approval. That puts that way out past net 30 when it eventually gets up to being paid. So why should you look at payments first as one of the places that you should automate? Because you've got such a multiple array of ways that you're paying vendors. I'm not sure how many ways you folks on the webinar are paying vendors, but we've seen a tremendous, you've got wire, you've got check, you've got ACH. Sometimes it's just direct deposit or e-payment. To manage all of those payments for your vendors is a tremendous amount of work. And the approvals that it takes to go through, to have somebody sign these checks, to approve these wires, and manually, I know everyone on the webinar is thinking, yes, stacks of checks, I got to get rid of these. The reconciliation over multiple ways of payments is very difficult. And then the follow-up. What I mean by follow-up is you've got to make sure that these checks clear. You got to run an achievement process. You got to make sure that they get deposited. And in some cases, you got to run positive pay reports, which is really a way in which you can prevent fraud. Banks require those that write checks to send spreadsheet analysis of checks sent so they can check it on their side to make sure that what checks they're receiving are the checks that you have sent. And then the reports and the audits. Auditors coming into your location, going through drawers, looking at checks, stapled invoices. I hope all of this sounds pretty familiar, and it really should. Here is an estimate cost of what it takes to to pay a one check. I mean, sometimes you're paying checks for $2, $3. It costs you $7.78 to actually process that check. When you build in the invoice, you build in the envelope, you build in the postage. I know you're thinking, boy, how do I get rid of checks? There is a solution at the end of this webinar, and we will show you. So here's a new way of thinking about automating your workflow and your AP process. So on the intake side, no more physical paper invoices. They all come to you digitally to an automated process for you now to approve code and upload into your ERP. Capturing the data, that goes away because there are automation processes where through a combination of technology and service, we can eliminate any errors in capturing the data. Matching POs if you have them, no more manual and sideload process, that's all matched electronically and automatically. Approvals, no more manual approvals, they're all sent electronically to the approvers to now visually see these invoices digitally with an image to approve. And by the way, most automation companies will have re-ping reports that will continually ping those approvers if they have not approved these invoices, so you don't have to manually monitor those folks to get those invoices back. Reporting, no more delays. In an automated solution, you now have everything digital at your fingertips. No more pulling drawers, no more fanning through files. All you have to do is just type in what span of invoices you want to look at, what year, what date, what vendor, and they'll all come up, line items with images electronically. I hope this is all sounding very good to everybody, but we've got even more when you automate. So what does automation mean? It really means just eliminating the entire manual process. Here's a snapshot of the automation. By automating your PO process, you can manage who buys what and when more effectively. By automating your approval process, you can drastically reduce the time it takes to get your approvals back. By eliminating the paper, you gain real-time visibility into the status of your payments. So here's the collection and review process. Chasing and organizing paper invoices is a big drain on finance teams. You'll all know that. The Avid Exchange Network eliminates 100% of all of the paper by electronically capturing the data and images so you can batch upload them into your accounting system. How does Avid Exchange eliminate 100% of the paper invoices? Hey, great question. Thank you, Carol, for asking that. Suppliers submit their invoices not to you anymore. They supply them to the Avid network. And the relevant information is then extracted from the invoice, and we convert the invoice into digital format for you now to review and approve. So this is what you're seeing instead of a stack of papers. Now you can go into your portal and you can see visually the line items of your invoices, and you can even drill down and see the image of those invoices. And I'll show you what that looks like. So once the invoices have been uploaded in the accounting system as an open payable and have been approved for payment, the payment file is then sent to Avid Exchange. Avid will then reach out to your suppliers and pay them via ACH or e-payment. It's as simple as that. And then here's how that works. Our supplier enablement team identifies the supplier's preferred payment method. We'll actually reach out to those vendors of yours or suppliers of yours and ask them how they'd like to be paid. And then we maintain the supplier payment data on your behalf, so you're not required to store any of this sensitive information. And then we reach out and pay them via virtual card, ACH, or check. And after your payment is deployed, the payment services team will follow up on all outstanding payments and will work with you and your suppliers to determine next steps if any checks haven't been cleared. And because you have all the information you need, reconciliation simple, your register in your ERP will look as though you wrote a check. So nothing changes in your ERP. We'll maintain the same check sequence in your register, and your bank statement will maintain the same check sequences. So your bank statement will look the same, your register will look the same. The only difference is you didn't have to print checks and stuff them in envelopes and mail them out, and then once you get them back, staple them to an invoice and store them in a cabinet. Great, let's go over the benefits of taking both the invoice and the pay automation together. So, step one, the purchase order. If you have purchase orders, we can automate this. We'll give you the control and visibility to eliminate any unauthorized purchases. It'll also ensure negotiated price and approved products are used, kind of the nature of a PO, and all regulated through the electronic approval workflow. So if you've got a PO system, it's just like the invoice system. It goes through an approval process, and once it's finally approved, that PO will then be emailed to the vendor. Second, processing and approving invoices. So, no more lost invoices because everything will be stored and searchable in a database. No more fraud. I can't tell you how many times I've heard of phantom vendors sending in invoices with somebody internally that you never get the service, but they approve them, and a check is written, and out goes money and no services. Automation will prevent any unauthorized vendor from getting paid and or any invoice being processed. The paper, that's obvious, very costly. The high opportunity costs, this is where every month that you continue to do these things manually are the costs that you're preventing from saving when you automate. And then the complex workflows, if you've got those, automation is key. And if you're looking to grow your organization, it's so important to think about scale with automation. So here we go, paying your suppliers. Again, the process to cost these things are through stuffing envelopes is terrible. You don't have the poor visibility. You can see 24-hour visibility on your payment status. When you process invoice payments electronically, if you want to see if that payment has been deposited, if it's been sent, and by what means, electronic, ACH, or by check, you can go into your payment portal, put that vendor's name in, and you'll see all the checks by what means they've been sent, the status, have they been cleared, and you'll also be able to see a copy of the canceled check. No longer have to go back and forth to your bank to make sure that happens. So, customizable payment approval workflow. If you've got an approval workflow that has someone that needs to sign checks, we can do that electronically. When you have auditors come in, all they need to do is give them read-only access, and they can see who got paid, by what means, and when. The follow-ups are amazing. That means when you have to reach out and you want to see if those checks have been canceled, you don't need to do that anymore. Most automation companies, especially ours, will do that for you. And the fraud, no more fraudulent checks. Everything is done through electronic. We 100% guarantee against fraud because we're doing all the positive pay reporting. Carol, how are we doing on time? We good? Great. So here is a little look inside our business. And this is really these 7 bubbles is basically, I would say, these are your value props. So if you ask us what are we? We're a complete purchase-to-pay automation solution that integrates with over 100 accounting systems. We're a combination of service and technology that converts your paper invoices into a digital format so you can electronically route your invoices, code, approve, and batch upload them into your accounting system. Our system will automate any workflow process you have today and electronically pay your vendors. And here's how it works. Your company redirects all of your paper email invoices to AvidXchange. And we do this simply by giving you a PO box. We message your vendors, do not send them to you anymore, send them to this PO box. And we give you an individual email, that dedicated email that your vendors now send to that email, which goes to us. And then we convert all of that information digitally. So for you now to view the image and the header information for you to approve. So once we've received all of those invoices and we've converted those digitally, this now is what those invoices look for you. This is now what you will get on a daily basis, that you have invoices that have come in for you now to approve. No more piling up on your desk, no more coming into the mail. You will get an email, and whoever that first person is to approve these invoices will have an email sent to them that says, you've got invoices to approve. And instead of a stack of invoices, they now open up their portal and they see a list of invoices. They could see these and they can approve them all at once, or they could drill down and take a look at them. Here's a look at where you can move around these columns if you want. If you want to see the list of invoices, and you can customize either by order or by date or by invoice, depending on what headers you want there, you can customize. But after you've customized it to your look and feel, now if you want to take a look at the invoices, you can actually drill down and see those invoices. Here is what now automation is all about. So instead of a paper, you've got all the header information on the left. Our company actually extracts that from that image and puts that in for you now to approve. We also upload a vision of an image of the invoice for you now to look at. If you've got a question and you want to email someone within your organization, you can track and provide any additional information happening around this invoice here in the comments tab. Great way to message within your internal organization. And also here, if you take a look at the workflow, this is where the workflow is for this particular invoice. If you set up a 3-person workflow, which this looks like, it looks like the AP clerk has got the first step to approve. That's probably a step in which they code it and then move it down to the second step. Looks like the second step is where they review code and approve. So Raina Foster looks like she's going to be doing the coding and approving. And then the third step is anything greater than $5,000 goes to Trey, the controller, and he reviews it and approves it. And if you want to see a history of all of the approvals, all of the messaging, all of the emails, all of the attachments, this really here is for your auditor. When your auditor comes in and they want to see everything there has to do about that invoice, all they have to do is get read-only access to your portal, click on the History tab, and see what happened to this invoice. Everything that's associated with this invoice is captured here. So without really going much further into the product, I know we put a lot of information in front of everyone here. I'm going to open this up for questions and answers. Anybody has any questions in regards to the product and the automation, please let me know. Love to answer your questions.
All right, Lance, thanks again. And once again, if you guys want to add any questions, be sure to look at your control panel and submit them over on that side, and we'll get to them as we see possible. And we did have one come in. The first question is there a minimum number of checks, and is there value in processing, for example, 100 checks a month?
So, it's not so much the minimum number of checks or minimum number of invoices. It's really how is your AP department set up? Do you have the staff to really handle your current flow of check volume? And if you've got an AP staff that is on a temp basis or on a volunteer basis, or ebbs and flows, but your check volume is overwhelming your AP staff, that's when you really want to think about automating. Additionally, you want to think about fraud, you want to think about accuracy. If some of these things are, you're getting errors, some rejections on email, on invoices into the ERP, that's when you start thinking about automation.
Great, thanks, Lance. And just a reminder, we did launch the poll, so we encourage you guys to go ahead and respond to that so we can see how we can follow up best after the webinar. We did have another question come in, and it was, what if my vendor or supplier does not want to get paid electronically, or what if they do not want to submit electronically?
So that's absolutely fine. We pay your vendors the way they prefer. And so if they do not want electronic check, electronic payment, we're happy to issue a check.
And in addition to that, what if they don't want to send in electronically?
So the vendors are getting invoices to the customers usually 3 different ways. They're sending them through mail, they're sending them through email, or they're sending them through EDI. In any form, we will convert that digitally for the customer. The vendors do not submit their invoices directly into our portal. They just send their invoices to us, and then we convert those invoices and actually put them into the portal.
Okay, great, thanks, Lance. Just to elaborate on that, we did have another question that said, how do the paper invoices get into the system? So if you want to get into that just a little more, I know you.
Oh yeah, no, that's usually kind of one of the bigger questions. So kind of a drill down, customers that come to us and they want to automate, we will give them a template on what to say and send to their vendors. So this email or letter will go out to their vendors and explain to them, please do not basically send your invoices to us any longer. We have an automation company that will be processing your invoices quicker. Please send all of your invoices to this PO box, and please email all your invoices to this email box. That PO and email will be dedicated to your account. So our processors, once those emails and physical mail come to us, then we open those, and then we extract the information, and then we provide them in digital format for you now to approve and code.
Great, thanks, Lance. And another question that we had was, do you code the invoices for us?
So what we do is we will pull down all your GL codes so they're available in your portal for you to drop down and code to your specific GL code. So you actually have an automated way to code them. We don't code them. You actually code them for the first time, and we have a smart code process in our software that the software will recognize that vendor, and then will recognize that past GL code, and will assign that vendor the GL code moving forward. But initially, you do the coding first. Our system will remember that, and if you need to change the code on the fly, you can actually do that with the drop-downs.
Great, and I think we have another question came in. How many levels of approvals can there be, and will an invoice get stuck if an approver doesn't reply?
Like that. As many approvals as you want. There's no limit to approvals. Generally, our top approver is 5. They never get stuck because we have reminders, and then we have pending invoice reports that are sent back to the AP department that alert the AP department that there are accruals out there waiting to be approved. So we've got timers that you can put on your approval routes, that if an invoice does not get approved within 48 hours, they will get pinged again. And after the first ping, then they'll be put on a report, a bad boy report, and it will be sent back to the AP person for them now to ping the approver.
Great. The next question is, are you able to see the AP bill history to make sure that you're consistently using the same GL code?
So there's a great little feature. It's called Associated, and Natalia, back me up on this one. There's a cool little feature. It's got Associated Invoices. So if you remember what that vision looks like, can we go back to that slide? No, probably not. Where you see the image of the invoice and the header information, there's a little button there that says Associated Invoices, and you can pull down all the invoices that are associated with that vendor over the last year, and you could open up those invoices to check to see if those GL codes are matching. I hope that answered that.
Lance is correct. This is Natalia, and to kind of to the other side of that question, there is always that historical audit trail that any capture of when we receive the invoice from when a GL code is edited or a comment is added, you'll always have that audit trail history in the portal as well.
Great, thanks guys. And I think we touched on this a bit, but just to reiterate for the sake of this question, can you have a workflow for approval and one to code and one to approve?
So we can build any approval workflow that you want. Generally, the step is, if there's someone that's going to code, they actually have to code, then hit approve for the invoice now to go to the next step in the process. So quick answer, if somebody's just going to be coding, that's all they're doing. They'd see their queue, they'd open up their invoices, they'd code it, they'd hit approve, and it would go to the next step.
Great. And then I think we have time for one more question. What happens if we have a new vendor?
So that's one of the ways in which we prevent any unauthorized vendors from getting into the system or you seeing unauthorized invoices being paid. Your system is the system of record. This is where you add your vendor and then download that file to the portal, which then we will update the approved vendor on our side.
Great. Awesome. Thanks, Lance and Natalia, for answering those questions. And once again, if we did not get to your question, we'll definitely follow up after the webinar to answer those questions that you may have. And thanks to everyone for staying with us this long. I know that Rob wanted to close out with some other comments, but thank you from AvidXchange on behalf of AvidXchange, and we'll be talking to you guys shortly if you look to schedule a demo or follow up with more information.
Hey folks, thanks Carol. This is Rob again. We appreciate everyone being on the webcast today. Lots of our clients are focused on improving AP through AP automation. There are a lot of benefits for nonprofits to do this. A couple notes, this slide, our upcoming Innovate conference is quickly approaching. It's the 20th through the 23rd at the beautiful Foxwoods Resort and Casino in Connecticut. We hope you're making plans to attend that. If you've never been to an Innovate conference, it's the largest independent nonprofit technology conference in the country. We offer lots of opportunities for training on our primary platforms. Our friends from AvidXchange will be there, as well as a number of our other partners. And to learn more and to get registered for that, you can just go to our website, jmtconsulting.com/innovate. And if we appreciate you being here today. We will certainly send the information out to you this afternoon so that you have a copy of what we talked about today. And if you, an easy step, if you just want to learn more, a JMT rep can help you with that. You'll certainly hear from us. And then if it makes sense to actually see a more in-depth presentation, our friends from AvidXchange will partner with us on that. With that, we're going to conclude today, give you back 21 minutes of your day. And we hope to see you at our next webcast. Have a great day, everyone. See ya.